Up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's
The Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephas and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. You thought you escaped from the Bitchspot Report, but we're back. After taking a week off, we've regrouped and come up with even more stories of religious and political absurdity for your listening enjoyment. This week, we handle voter fraud, Hobby Lobby, creationism in Louisiana, and Pat Robertson. Plus, we talk about the death penalty and why it's a good thing. There's lots to come in the next 90 minutes, so stay tuned. How you doing now that we've actually taken a week off?
Not too bad, not too bad. Probably could be better though, but,
You always say that.
I know, the weeks leading up to, my mom had, hip replacement surgery and, I was kind of worried about that and, of course the other things I had to deal with at the time. So, it was kind of dicey and, she came through great, no problems. She's in, physical therapy now and doing fine. I mean, I was amazed how quick they get them up and going. She was like in surgery for 4 hours, 2 hours recovery. About 3 hours after, she got out of recovery, they had her up and walking. And,
yeah, they're quick.
Yes. Yeah, I was amazed. And,
Isn't modern medicine great?
It's excellent.
And how many people has God cured again? 0? Yeah, okay.
That was what's going through my mind because this doctor was super cool and apparently he's one of the better ones in the area. So, that was kind of cool. And he said there's no problems, no complications, nothing out of the ordinary. So, hey, I'm happy. And,
yeah.
When I visited her, this was on Tuesday, I visited her Wednesday and she seemed pretty normal. Maybe her memory was a little scrambled, but that was about it, Yeah.
So. Well, I'm kind of glad we didn't do a show last week because I was gone all weekend and I took a day or two ahead of time and I took a day or two to recover afterwards. And by the time I got back, everything had hit the fan and I had no goddamn time to do anything.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing though, right afterwards. I took the extra days off for my mom, but it was like I was going to try to get my show out that weekend and, I had a bad case of writer's block. Plus with everything that was on my mind, it's like, trying to, get all this stuff together. And I was working on a section in the show, I get into some psychology and I wanted to make sure I'm getting the terms right and all that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, what do I have to say here? How do I say it? What's the best way to describe it? The show I'm doing is I'm actually exploring how a conspiracy theory comes together, how, all the what's and whys and things to watch out for to tell you that you are dealing with a conspiracy theory. And I built a conspiracy theory as part of the show. Of course, a lot of psychology, how the human mind works. So I'm like, I've got a lot of basic stuff and the stuff that, you hear from, Dawkins and, stuff you get from the other skeptical podcasts. And I want to make sure that I'm thinking along the right lines. And, next thing you know, it says, okay, how do I say this? How do I say this? Let me think about it. And, hours turn to days and I'm so far behind now on getting my show out. I'm actually going to try to get it out Friday. I've got it recorded. I just got to edit it tomorrow and I should be good and back on schedule. But it's like, all that stuff that was going through my head before and during and even afterwards. It's just amazing.
Yeah, well, luckily I never have writer's block. When I sit down and I want to write, I'll crank out. Yesterday, which is the first day, actually late afternoon yesterday, which is the first day that I hadn't just been completely buried in everything. I sat down and said, well, I should maybe try to get something written because I hadn't written anything for 4 or 5 days. And so I wrote like 11 posts in like 2 hours. It's like, okay. But I'm so far ahead. It's just ridiculous. I'm out in the middle of July or something right now. Right. And I really had nothing bad to say today. And I was thinking, well, it's going to be just a really easy podcast. We'll just do some stories and have a talk and then be done. Until earlier today when I was reading some material for the show and a well-known dumbass named Roger showed up on my blog and started whining. Now he's a theist troll. he runs around and he just bitches and whines about all kinds of stuff, and he's got no clue what the hell he's doing. Now, I happen to be lucky and have some really intelligent people reading my blog, and as soon as he showed up and started posting a whole shit ton of nonsense, they jumped in and discredited absolutely everything he had to say before I even noticed this thing was going on. And it's gone on for over 200 comments in the past 4 or 5 hours. I don't know if it's over yet or not, but we'll see. Unfortunately, this guy he doesn't care if he's spouting bullshit. He doesn't care if he's proven wrong. He just repeats the same shit over and over and over and over and over. I mean, I don't know if he's just a troll or fucking stupid or whatever, because he's somewhere in the middle. I think he really believes the shit that he says, but holy crap, you can't be much more wrong than this guy. And I run into these people all over the place.
Well, it sounds like you attract them. You say something sensible and, then someone jumps in and well, that's wrong. It's like, my belief is better than yours. And,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the funny thing was there was another troll who jumped on earlier in the week or late last week or whatever. And I don't know what it is with these trolls, but these people need lives because they will sit down and they will write 5,000 word comments, 15 of them in a row. It's like, guys, you need a fucking life. Go find something better to do. And then, somebody over on Free Thought Blogs, one of the fucktards over there, did a comment to one of the posts that I wrote. And he ran over there and he was the first one going, yeah, well, I was telling him he was wrong. All right, guy, whatever floats your goddamn boat.
I mean, I kind of wonder sometimes if some of this trolling is, some kind of bot or something like that, or some script that someone's got set up that automatically seeks out certain keywords and boom, 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 hits you with, a bunch of emails.
No, but I'm sure there are people out there who are searching Google for certain things, and as soon as they find it, they go bitch about it.
More than likely, yeah, because I've got this email that I got, and it's funny. I mean, I think it's I think it's spam, actually. Somebody trying to do something funny, trying to get my name on a spam list. If I reply back to it or something like that, I would end up getting, Canadian meds and whatever type of thing. But I'm reading this thing and it's like, I think trying to remember because the title was, a credibility red flag. And then in it he had copied, a line out of one of my web pages, it was my about page, and caught a grammar error. I messed up, I forget what I actually did. It was, possessive noun, whatever crap, type of thing. And he goes, it's a credibility red flag if you can't understand grammar. But the sentence didn't read like that. It was like this really bad sentence structure. It's kind of like, maybe, and I want to pick on foreign listeners, but how they try to write a message and it doesn't, it looks kind of weird. Words like, use of grammar is so bad. It's a red flag to your credibility. And that's why I'm thinking it's some kind of spam bot, something trying to do something, because it's really bad. And the guy, if you're going to criticize someone's grammar, use proper grammar to do it. Okay. You question my credibility. You just dumped your credibility down the toilet, because I'm not a grammar Nazi. I'd like to be grammatically correct as best as I can. But, when I go to other sites and, someone messes up a word, hey, people mess up. I'm cool with it. I get the idea what you're coming across. I don't criticize anybody for that. As long as the idea gets through, I'm cool with it. But, you guys who have to, every sentence has to be perfectly structured and, the proper, orientation of, noun, pronoun, whatever, all that crap. Leave it at home.
Yeah.
You're working yourself up over nothing.
Yeah.
Some people are anal like that. I understand that. And I guess I'm kind of cool with that. But you know what? If you're going to criticize someone, be sure to use proper grammar if you're going to criticize someone's grammar.
Oh yeah. Well, I had the same damn thing happen that first troll that I was talking about. He sent me an email and he says, when you're writing, you didn't use a semicolon here, and that really bothers me. I demand that you change things. And I just kind of went, yeah, fuck you. It's like, dude, you read it or you don't. Okay? I'm sorry, but when I'm writing a blog post, it's more important to get the idea out than to go back and check for grammar. I'm sorry. If I'm writing professionally, cool. Yes, I'm going to go back and make sure everything's grammatically correct. If I'm writing a blog post that took me a grand total of 10 minutes to write, no, I'm not going to go through and worry about it that much. Sorry. You don't like it? Don't read it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to bust anyone over grammar, and if people make mistakes, so, big whoop. I'm hoping this is a real guy because, I would love to tear into this guy, but I'm afraid this is some kind of spam bot because I notice, one of the lines in there, it had something like rootkit, something in the source. So I think he might be doing something, fishy. So. Yeah,
I would just delete it and move on. I mean, I didn't respond to this guy either. It's like, dude, rent a clue. And then going back to this other dumbass Roger, I mean, this is really why I'm really pushing my 30-second debate technique more and more. I mean, every single debate hinges on whether or not the theist can actually prove the existence of their God. If they can't, there's just no debate. There's no reason to even talk to these people. It's just a war of assertion. And that's all these people do. I mean, this guy was running around going, well, the retrograde moons of Jupiter prove God. Well, where the fuck is your proof for that, In order to prove that the retrograde moons were caused by God, you first have to prove that God exists and then draw a direct causal link between God and the direction of the moons. You haven't done that. You can no more do that than say, well, it was caused by leprechauns. Well, dude, you can't get around that step. And that's all these people want to do is just try to argue their way around it. That pisses me off anymore.
Actually, when he said retrograde motion on the moons, I'm like, is that clinching proof of God?
It's nothing.
It's nothing. Oh my, yeah.
Well, and he was going, well, there's no other possible natural explanation. I'm going, captured space material becomes a moon. There's your explanation. And he won't acknowledge that. It's like, yeah, Jesus, you people are just so fucking stupid. And everybody is calling him on it. And he just keeps going on and on and on how it's proof for God. Dumbass, you're just too fucking stupid to live. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just hoping he doesn't reproduce. Unfortunately, that's asking too much.
Yeah, well, I don't know. These people are just too dumb and they just keep coming out of the woodwork. It's like, where do you people come from? And, how can we get your parents fixed? Although it's too late now. How can we get you fixed so you don't actually produce more stupid people like you?
An extremely late-term abortion.
Hey, I'm entirely cool with that.
Oh, yeah.
So, do we want to get on and do some news?
Let's do some news.
And now the news.
This week I found a couple stories detailing obvious voter fraud. One case in Alabama and another in North Carolina. And I bring this up mostly because the left are vehemently opposed to voter ID laws. They always say there's no cases of voter fraud, but here's two, and they're in the same damn week. These things are found all the time, but liberals are quick to try and sweep them under the rug and pretend they don't exist because it helps their side if they don't pay attention. The fact is that at least one of these cases, and that was the one in Alabama, there's 4 counties that have more people registered to vote than there are adults living in the counties. And every goddamn one of them voted Democratic in 2012. Maybe the reason they don't want voter ID laws is because it would stop them from winning so often.
Yeah. Of course, I'm from Chicago where it's vote early, vote often. A nice, wonderful Democratic, stronghold. This kind of stuff doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me is it actually made it to some news, and has come out as, the Alabama and North Carolina, usually in Chicago, there will be, you'll have the election, you got the spring and the fall, November election, usually a day after you'll see a news report about accusations of voter fraud, and then you don't hear a word about it afterwards.
Well, of course not, because the political parties benefit from it. They don't want anybody talking about it.
Right. How do you go with this? And I would almost bet that every county, every state, every jurisdiction has something fishy going on election-wise. I'm not sure exactly how it works in Illinois. Actually, my ma was registered in two counties, because actually it's by county. In Illinois, it's all by county, not by township or anything like that. So it's counties, and it's because she moved from Will County to Grundy County, and she registered in Grundy County. For whatever reason, no one talks to each other apparently and say, hey, this person is no longer on that roll. So there's that kind of stuff probably going on. But then when you have a county that has more registered voters than who lives in the county and more votes, and every one of them have voted, that should be something someone should be looking into and swinging a hammer at, because, I mean, this is obvious that something is not right. And, I mean, I saw in there some about census count. It's like, I don't think that really means much because, this was 2012, for the election, and the census was 2011, 2010. People move in and out of these counties all the time. Trying to pin down a number is, it's like you're trying to pin Jello to a wall.
Yeah. Well, except when you have people voting in both areas and,
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the thing. I'm hoping this gets investigated, because if they are voting in two places, there's definitely problems, and somebody somewhere is going to have to, pay for it. And unfortunately, I'll have to say that this will probably eventually get swept under the rug, like anything election fraud, related.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
And you can be sure that the Democrats are going to come back and go, oh, well, it's so horrible. You'll disenfranchise minorities, yada, 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 yada. Well, dude, if they can't go to the fucking DMV and get an ID, then why should I think they're going to get off their ass and go down and vote? I mean, if they're too lazy to go and get an ID, then they shouldn't be voting to begin with. The only reason the Democrats don't want voter ID laws is because it's more likely to impact the poor and minorities, which are part of their voting base. If it affected wealthy white voters, they would lead in the charge for voter ID. Yeah. They don't give a shit about the country. They just give a shit about getting in power.
Yeah.
This country is so goddamn messed up.
And the logic, I mean, like you said, you can go down the DMV, get just an ID. You don't have to get a driver's license. You can get an ID card. I think in Illinois, you could do that, and it's like $10, $15 and you get a photograph. It's like, I think all you got to have is a birth certificate or whatever, or if you got some other form of ID, Social Security, whatever. I mean, I think you need some picture ID to get just an ID. $15 and you're out the door. And, that is not an impediment to prevent, people from, from voting. I mean, as long as you've got a valid ID, you're on the voter roll. I think there should be some communications between these counties. If this person is registered in both counties, one or the other has to come off the books. I mean, there's that. I mean, that issue. So, I'm sure that, there's people who take advantage of it. I mean, I love how the dead are voting. I mean, that's the more amazing thing is how many dead people had voted in these elections.
Oh yeah.
It's like that should be pretty damn obvious, and that's something that should be dealt with.
Yep.
Harshly.
Yeah, but nothing will ever get done. And if you can't even show a bloody ID, I mean, seriously, how do you even exist in the modern world without an ID? You can't even use a credit card without an ID. They ask you for your fucking identification. If you can't prove you're real, you can't use the credit card. You can't buy things. You can't go places. You can't do anything. So I don't buy any of this crap where, these people just don't have IDs and it's unfair to ask them to spend any money whatsoever to go and get legal identification. Well, if it's unfair, then fuck them. They don't deserve to vote. If they don't care enough to spend $10 or $15 to go down and get a legal ID that they need to have anyway, then I don't want them voting. Absolutely. And if that disenfranchises the poor and minorities, then fuck the poor and minorities. Real simple. If you don't care enough to do it, then you don't want to vote that bad, do you?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just simple. I mean, I had to go to the public library to register to vote. There's those times where you got to stand in line if you want to do something. That is not a big deal. Maybe for some people who, they work for a shitty company that won't let you take time off to do this stuff. But, it's not a big deal to to get registered.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is these people can't even have jobs without IDs. You know, the federal government is requiring you to prove who you are in order to prove you're not an illegal alien. So that doesn't even wash.
The thing I get about Illinois, they have this motor voter program or deal where when you apply for your driver's license, you can also register to vote. Well,
right.
And which is kind of cool, but technically you're only registered for federal elections. You're not registered for state elections through that program. And a lot of people didn't realize that. So they went in to go vote for, in the election thinking they had a valid voter registration, and turned out they didn't. And they were turned away, and they were only allowed to vote for president, type of thing. So maybe it's the rules, how the rules are set up, that makes it so fucking hard. And, and then you expect some bureaucrat that sits behind a desk to understand all these nuanced rules and stuff like that. And, of course, all these counties crying broke, the election boards. Hey, we can't afford to clean up our voter registrations. We can't afford this or that,
it's not even about voter registration. It's about walking up to the desk and saying, I want to vote. And they say, what's your name? And where's your fucking ID to prove that that's really you? That's the whole thing. And then they give you your ballot and you go vote. And the Democrats are all sitting around whining that it's unfair to ask anybody to prove who they actually are in order to get a ballot. That anybody should be able to walk up, say, this is my name, give me a damn ballot, even if that's not really who it is. So you can go up there and vote for the dead, and you can go up and vote for anybody you damn well please, because you say their name, and that's goddamn stupid.
Right. Yeah, I think the only safeguard in Illinois really is the people at the poll, when you go in and you say, hey, I'm Mike Bowler, a lot of these at the table there are right from my neighborhood. They know who I am.
But it shouldn't matter.
Right.
That's like if you go into a grocery store and try to buy alcohol, even if they know you and they know you're old enough, they're supposed to ask you for your ID. That's their job. That's what they're being paid for. Whether they know you or not, they still have to ask to see your ID. Same thing should be true here.
On occasion, I do get asked for ID at the polls. So it's like, out comes my driver's license. Boom. Everything's good. It's not a big deal, but I think, that may even be part of the problem where, these people, they know you, but, they may not even realize, well, you live in the county next door, cause like where I live, I'm right on a borderline between two counties. I could easily, register in the town next, actually two counties practically. I could, within 20 minutes, I can be in 3 counties. There's nothing really preventing me, as long as, I could register in all 3 of those counties, and I could probably go vote in all 3 of those counties, and no one would be the wiser because no one checks the voter rolls, or, things like that. I'm trying to find defenses for this, but it's really coming down to, Alabama, North Carolina. I could talk about Chicago. You always hear some type of, and I'm sure where you live and where our list, every town, you could easily, next election, next day, find that article. You could send them to us. We'll have 1,000 articles about voter fraud in those towns, or accused, and, it's pretty obvious. And it goes on. There's accusations here. We got clearly in these 2 articles, we got clearly people are breaking the rules, and, it's frustrating. I don't even know where to go from here, because it's like, this is clearly people who shouldn't be voting, are voting.
Right.
Maybe even fake IDs, people coming in with, whatever the deal is. Something's got to really be done. I don't know if it means state or national databases and stuff, which I know freaks people out. Now we're going to get listed as, you have to be on a national database to be a voter. And,
yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
I don't care what it takes to make it so it's one person, one vote. If you have to fingerprint every goddamn person who goes to vote, do it. And then compare all the fingerprints to make sure nobody voted twice. Or, there's gotta be a way to do this. And it's the liberals who don't want it done.
Right. Yeah.
You don't see the Republicans going, well, you shouldn't do this. No, it's always the liberals. It's always the liberals. Bunch of whiny little shits.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, because with Chicago, those stories disappear as fast as they pop up on the news. It's the liberal mindset of Chicago. And,
It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and do your story?
There's a school district that has okayed a Bible curriculum. Okay, that would be an insane headline to start with, but there's another part to it, which is that the curriculum was created by the Hobby Lobby president. I mean, Lewis, where is this country going? It's unbelievable what's happening. According to the Religion News Service, the Museum of the Bible curriculum created by Hobby Lobby's president Steve Green is going to be beta tested in Oklahoma's Mustang Public School District beginning in the fall of this year. Green hopes that the program will be placed in hundreds of high schools by 2016 and thousands of high schools by 2017. It's going to be overseen by Jerry Pattengale, head of the Green Scholars Initiative. This is a 4-year elective course where students will study, get ready, the narrative, history, and impact of the Bible to Western civilization. The book is being taught supposedly in an academic purview, not in a religious purview, so it, according to its supporters, it doesn't violate the Establishment Clause of the Constitution as interpreted by the Supreme Court in Abington School District versus Schempp. Nothing we have said here indicates that such study of the Bible, the court decided, when presented objectively as a part of a secular program of education, may not be affected consistently with the First Amendment. So the idea here is simple, Lewis, that as we know, if you teach the history of religion, if you teach that religion exists and do an academic study of religion or of a religion, that is not an establishment of the religion. That's the argument that is being made here. Unfortunately, if we look, this is where it always all falls apart, Lewis. If we look at statements made by Steve Green when he received the 2013 Templeton Prize for Progress towards research or discoveries about spiritual realities, quite a prize there that he received. What he said strongly suggests that the material is not going to be presented objectively and it is not going to be part of a secular program. In his speech, Green referred to the Bible as a, quote, reliable historical document that's had a great impact on the world, and that it is his job to point that out and to show that whether it be the government, education, science, art, literature, family, or whatever, the Bible has and should continue to have an impact. He said someday the teaching of the Bible in high school should be mandated.
Hobby Lobby, Steve Green launches a new project, a public school Bible curriculum. The Mustang, Oklahoma School Board voted Monday, April 14th, to adopt a Bible course developed by Steve Green, clearing the way for Hobby Lobby president, whose suit against the Affordable Care Act is currently before the U.S. Supreme Court, to enter another charged area at the borderline of church and state. The board, whose district is practically in Hobby Lobby's Oklahoma City backyard, agreed to beta test the first year of a Museum of the Bible curriculum, an ambitious 4-year public school elective on the narrative, history, and impact of the good book. For at least the first semester of the 2014-2015 year, Mustang alone will employ the program, says Jerry Pattengale, head of the Green Scholars Initiative, which is overseeing its development. In September 2016, he hopes to place it on at least 100 high schools, in the following year, thousands. Oh, do I hear another Supreme Court argument coming in?
Yeah, but nobody will care.
Yeah. I mean, at least they're doing it as an elective, but it's still in the public school, they're talking about high school, 4-year. Oh, that doesn't sound right. I mean, it doesn't sound good. And
well, it depends how they do it.
There's a dickhead,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got no love for Hobby Lobby at all. I think they're a bunch of dicks, and I don't think that any company out there, if they're religious, should have any religious exemption from the law. This whole crap with Obamacare and Hobby Lobby and bullshit. It's bullshit. We shouldn't let, the Christian identity owners of businesses refuse to hire blacks or be racist or whatever. It's all a bunch of crap. I have to say, though, it depends on how they do this. The way it's described is really two different ways. If they make it an elective and they describe it as talking about the narrative history and impact of the Bible, that's really just a comparative religions class, and I'm fine with that. Nobody ever has to take it.
Right.
But when you start looking at Steve Green, he says he wants to push it so that it's mandatory for everybody eventually, and it teaches the truth of the Bible. That's where they're going to get into trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm cool with an elective, and if it's something where it is, like you said, a comparative religious course, yeah, it's not too bad. It's just, I mean, I see slippery slope. This is like a wedge into, okay, we got an elective into the schools. Now let's push it to make it mandatory after 4 years or whatever. You know, that is where it starts getting dangerous, where it becomes an actual class. Yeah, and especially Hobby Lobby and this guy's track record. It's a logical fallacy, I know, slippery slope argument, but this really does sound very much like what they're trying to do. They're trying to weasel in, get that wedge in, and then keep pushing the wedge in until you finally get your religion taught in schools as a mandatory. And that's where it gets dangerous. And that's why I think we should be very skeptical about even this first attempt.
Well, I'm just hoping that the lawyers for the Mustang, Oklahoma school district are going, there is a solid limit to how far you can go, and you can't go any farther. And if they want to go right up to their limit, that's fine. It's legal. They can do what they want to. They're stupid, but hey, they're religious. But I hope they understand that there is a point where they are going to go to the Supreme Court and they are going to lose, and they will never, ever, ever win. You can't twist it any way to get what Steve Green wants done legally. It can't be done. So, I mean, I'm cool with them doing it as an elective and as a comparative religions class and all that. Go ahead. I don't care. What's going to happen when people want to come in and start teaching like the same class on Islam or the same class on Hinduism or whatever? Are they going to reject that? Well, no, they're showing favoritism towards Christianity, and that's another court case.
Yes. It's one to be skeptical about. I would hope that the school district really looked hard at this and say, yeah, hey, this doesn't look too bad. And hopefully they're prepared for the blowback, because there's always going to be it. I mean, when you start bringing the religion in, and I mean, I'm hoping it comes more from another religion as opposed to an atheist opposing it. If it was a Jewish student or an Islamic student or whatever wants a course like that, and the school district turns it down, then I'm hoping they're realizing where this is going. It's really, because it could go all sorts of different directions. I'm wondering if the atheists have lodged complaints, or how many complaints they've had on this.
Well, they can't really complain until it's actually been done, but I'm willing to bet they won't get through a single school year before they have a legal challenge.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, I'm fine with that. Yeah. That's the only way these Christians are ever going to learn. Unfortunately, they never learn. That's the problem. They just keep doing the same old shit.
Right.
But we've got a similar story next, so let's go ahead and just go there. The Louisiana State Education Committee has upheld a controversial law that allows science teachers to bring in, quote-unquote, supplemental material into the classroom. In other words, it's a means of bringing creationism into the science curriculum, something that's been soundly declared unlawful by the Supreme Court again and again and again, yet Louisiana is doing it again. It's also clear that the second this gets into the schools, more taxpayer money is going to be spent on the inevitable lawsuits to come, and the law will be found unlawful, as it has in every single court case so far. So why do they do it? Hey, could be that Discovery Institute secret conspiracy idea we keep coming up with.
It's actually not secret, actually. It is a real program. It's called the wedge. And that's why you always use the term wedge.
Yeah, but we don't know if that's what's happening here necessarily.
Right. But it does sound an awful lot like it, where you just get enough in there. Well, it's like planting seeds. You plant the seed. Hopefully you protect it, you water it, you fertilize it, and it grows into something. As opposed to the Supreme Court stomping on it and saying you can't do that. It's like I think the idea is plant the seed. Hopefully it stays under the radar. You're staying within the law. Like what we talked in the last article. Have this, elective that you could do. You're still within the law, within the limits. If you keep trying to push out more, keep pushing out more. like a kid growing up, they're always pushing out their boundaries, finding out how far they can push their parents. Will the parent let them get away with this, or will they, correct the child, so and I think that's the idea, is to get in, get people thinking, making sure that, protect it as best you can. Because again, the Discovery Institute, once it's exposed and it goes to court, they might help, but then they run away and, not even admit defeat. They just go on and find the next, victim.
Yeah, and nobody ever holds them accountable. I'd love it if these school districts all turned around and sued the Discovery Institute for all the money that they lost in court cases.
That would be so sweet.
It won't happen, but
Right.
And I think it's funny, like we were talking a while back, I don't remember how many shows back, but we were talking about like South Carolina doing stuff like this and pointing out that they are the dead last state in educational standards in this country. Yeah. Well, Louisiana's number 49 out of 51, if you count the District of Columbia. And then we can look at like California, which is number 2, and unfortunately Illinois, which is number 21. Yeah. But, it's always these stupid states with bad educational standards that are doing this crap. The bottom 10 are the ones where this always happens. And it's ridiculous.
And they don't learn.
Of course not, because they have bad educational standards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I always point out, it's like, why don't the taxpayers get more upset that these laws are going to cost them money? But fuck, you look at Louisiana, they're the 33rd highest welfare state in the nation. Welfare pays more in Louisiana than a minimum wage job. So no wonder they don't care. They're not paying taxes anyway.
Yep.
The government is paying for their stupid shit.
Yeah, it blows my mind. Yeah, you're right. They're not thinking. These people are just not thinking. Apparently critical thinking skills are not required anymore. Ever. Because, we call ourselves conservative and, cause we want sensible government, sensible, everything, and
these people are not conservative and we know it. Come on.
I know it, but they wear the cape, let's put it that way.
They only wear the cape because they stole it from somebody else.
Yeah. This idea, so many thoughts are in my head right now. What's going on here? They're totally opposite of what they seem to stand for. They don't care about, sensible government, even though they call themselves, conservative.
They're neoconservatives. They're liberals wearing conservative capes. That's it.
Pretty much, because it's having a good school district. It's an important component of, your property values and stuff like that.
But they don't care. That's the problem. Most of these people probably don't own property to begin with. They live in trailer parks. And I'm trying not to generalize or anything, but most of these people would probably prefer that the public school system went away completely and every single child was educated in the church. How much you want to bet that's the case?
If that.
And if you sit down and you listen to these neocons, they do not want a public school system at all. They want to do away with the National Education Administration. They want to do away with all public schools and have everything be through the churches. They don't give a shit about a secular education or a worthwhile education.
Yeah. Like I said, there's so many thoughts going through my head. Everything that we've talked about these past 2 news articles. It's just totally opposite of anything I would think, sensible, conservative, even, I want to even say, like normal religious. Everything just seems so opposite of what really should, what is sensible in this.
There is no sensibility in their heads whatsoever.
I know.
It's sad, true.
And that's what I'm trying to resolve that, because it's, I don't want to call them liberal because all these ideas, all these thoughts of, well, what could be really wrong down there? And they're just too stupid to exist.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just, that's what it really comes down to in these cases. I can't even go any further on that because it defies all logic. It defies all rationality. It defies anything decent and good.
Yeah. And the thing is that this is just a very blatantly obvious way to get their kind of sectarian Christianity into the schools. Even though it doesn't say anything in the law specifically, I'm willing to bet that if any teacher tried to bring in non-Christian materials, they'd get fired. You know, where does this end? Can you bring in like communist supplementary materials into an economics class? Or do they get to teach the demon possession idea alongside the germ theory of disease? Oh no, there's no need for medicine. You just pray over people and here's my supplementary material.
Right.
And how anybody can justify any of this crap is ridiculous. But you know that the second this goes outside of their version of Christianity, they're going to make sure it gets stopped. Yeah. They're such fucking hypocrites. And this has happened many times before. And it's gotten thrown out many times before. You know, we really want to have, I think we need to have something in this country where if the Supreme Court is found against an idea, then if you try to impose that idea anyway, even knowing that the Supreme Court has already said you can't do it, then you go to prison, or we just take you out and shoot you or something.
Actually, I would have no problem sending a school board or a principal to jail over something like this, because it's really, you know, you're actually violating, I don't know if it's technically a court order, but you know, the court is stated, you know, this program is, you know, teaching this in a public school is illegal.
Right.
You know, and if you knowingly violate that ruling, you know, you should do some time, and maybe that'll knock some sense into these people, because
no, it won't, because they don't have first, they have no sense to begin with, and secondly, they're just going to sit around and whine about their religious sensibilities being offended, and you're just attacking us because we're Christians, and all this other stupid bullshit. No, we're not. You're just stupid. Knock it the fuck off.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Why don't we go ahead and lighten the mood and do the last story?
If you read the Bible, it seems like to me the only thing that will fulfill the words of Jesus and the words of Revelation would be an asteroid hitting the earth, and it's going to happen. And the Bible says, I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, and he had what looked like a burning mountain, and he hurled it into the sea. What better description of an asteroid? A burning mountain.
The implications of that are almost hard to describe.
The End of the Age, it had one that was 1 kilometer in diameter, I guess it was, but it weighed 3 billion pounds. And I did the science on it, I had to research, and the effect is enormous. And once it hits the earth crust, all kinds of bad things happen, because volcanoes begin to explode and tsunamis take place, and devastation follows in their wake. So
for everybody.
This is, you read the Bible, read it carefully, and that's what it says is going to happen. And Jesus said, except those days were shortened, there'll be no flesh remaining. There won't be anybody alive on the earth. So this is one of they've got something they call the extinctor, which is enough to wipe out everybody. And, you know, it wouldn't take much. One of them apparently wiped out the dinosaurs.
Well, you know, I think one of the things that we've seen in the last few years with all of the natural disasters that have happened is just how fragile we are on Earth. You know, it doesn't take much to upset a lot.
We're doing news now, but you need to put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. It's time we put our hands in his hand, because in terms of disaster, he's the only one that can really take us through. Nobody else, nothing, no power on earth can do it.
And if you thought it couldn't get any stupider. Our buddy, our pal, our, what is it? What would be a good term for Pat Robertson?
I got some terms for him, but you know.
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it, man.
We know what we'd call him.
Yeah, but I don't know, I'm trying to think. Who's what would be the Sam Kinison of, religion? I don't know, will be good,
Don't insult Sam Kinison like that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think of something. Our poster child for ultimate,
the poster child for forced retirement.
Forced retirement and euthanasia.
Guy's a fucking that'd be fine too.
Yes. Pat Robertson. Jesus
He's the recommendation for Soylent Green or Logan's Run.
There we go.
You get over a certain age, we fucking take your ass out.
Yes, definitely, because Pat Robertson, Jesus said, an asteroid could destroy Earth next week. This was an article from Monday the 21st. Televangelist Pat Robertson warned on Monday that Jesus had said that an asteroid would destroy the Earth, and it can happen as soon as next week. On Tuesday, 3 former NASA astronauts are expected to present their findings that the Earth has experienced far more impacts from large asteroids than previously thought. For Robertson, the news was just the latest reason to hype his book, The End of the Age, which asserts that the end times predicted in Revelations will be brought on by a meteor. Okay, yeah, this was the 21st. We're getting close, and probably by the time you hear this, it'll be definitely a good solid week.
Yeah.
Or a solid 2 weeks since he said this.
Yeah, I was saying, damn, we missed the end of the world again.
Oh, we missed it again.
We just keep missing it. I don't know.
Oh, hang on. Let me check outside the window. Oh, yeah. The planet's still here. We're still good.
Okay. Well, I mean, seriously, it's funny when you read this thing because he's just hedging his bets. He's going, well, it could be next week. It could be in 1,000 years. Well, yeah, because asteroid strikes are very common. We have a mass extinction every 60 to 70 million years. So eventually, statistically, he's going to be right.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing like, throwing the dart and then drawing the target around it, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's funny. He's going, oh yeah, these astronauts are going to come and show that we've been hit a lot. Okay. What does that prove? Guess what? None of them destroyed the Earth. Well, all right. No, there was one when we formed the moon that theoretically destroyed the Earth, but that wasn't an asteroid hit. But none of these have actually destroyed the Earth. Where's your fucking claim, dumbass?
Pretty much. And, you know, it's like, of course, Jesus told them. See, that's the kicker there. See, that proves it, you know, that Jesus told them that the Earth's going to get wiped out this week, I guess. So, I don't know. Why? I mean,
because Pat Robertson is a senile old fool. Why does anybody listen to this dumbass anymore? I mean, I think he just exists to give Right Wing Watch something to post every week. Because that's all he is.
Yeah, he opens his mouth and something, well, I'm assuming too much, but you know, he is a religious type, you know. They're not necessarily known for their, sensibilities, so, I don't know. I just got a kick out of it, and the show comes out on Friday. Probably still got like Saturday, so, if you're hearing this, just keep an eye out Saturday, and if it doesn't happen, fuck Pat Robertson.
Well, yeah. Although he probably couldn't anymore, so I don't know. Maybe it fell off. Maybe that's why he's such a dumbass, because he's got nothing else to do.
That's quite possible. I mean, I'm sure it was, the Oral Roberts and his, send me $1 million or God's gonna call me home.
Go ahead, let's test your claim.
Yeah.
But no, but God might bring me home in 20 or 30 years. That's how these guys get around that crap.
Right.
We didn't give you a date. We just said it might happen sometime. And when I drop dead of natural causes, well, that's really God calling me home. Yeah. And when the sun goes and becomes a red giant and fries the earth into a cinder, well, that's really Jesus killing the earth for gays or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah, but it's just, I wouldn't be surprised. He pitched his book. So again, this is, he's trying to make money. It's like scare everybody. Oh, he might have the answer. So, I better go out and order his book, or whatever
He's never had the answer before. Well, why think he's going to start now?
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I would say, but you know what? Anybody who will sit down and watch the 700 Club or, anything that Pat Robertson does, they're like, that guy makes sense. I'm sending, I mean, he bilks, these old widows out of all their money and, and no conscience whatsoever. It's like, he says a prayer for everybody and, and hopefully they're the 144,000 that'll get raptured. It's like, that's all that matters to the people who follow this guy. As long as I get raptured, I'm a happy person,
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen. And I honestly feel sorry for the people who work for Raw Story or Right Wing Watch or any of these organizations, because they got to sit through this dumbass's fucking TV show week after week to get these stories. I'm sorry for you people. I really, really am, because you people, you're doing a ridiculously difficult job. You're melting your brain for reality.
I feel for him. I mean,
I do.
If you spend 4 hours listening to Alex Jones, I mean, that's probably as bad as having to listen to 15 minutes of Pat Robertson.
Yeah, I would never do it. I'm sorry. I don't care what you pay me. I would never do it. My brain is more important than that. I don't want to get turned into a, this is your brain on Pat Robertson thing.
Yeah.
These people are they're dumb beyond belief, and anybody who falls for it, they're even dumber. It's like that old, George Carlin thing, You remember how stupid most people are? And then you gotta remember that half of them are dumber than that.
Yeah.
And they're all watching the 700 Club. Why? Somebody explain to us why. We need to know.
Yeah.
It's just painful.
Why ask why? I mean, it's Pat Robertson. He's our go-to puppet or punching bag. Let's go for it.
Well, we've actually got a couple. I mean, between him and all of the other hyper-religious, wingnut, crazy bloggers and guys who are doing podcasts and all that stuff. And you look at these people and go, what the fuck is going on in your head? And then you realize, well, nothing. That's the problem.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's keep repeating the bullshit. Keep repeating it. And people, I think that is actually one of the ways of, building a conspiracy theory or building a belief. You keep repeating it, getting other people to repeat it. Pat Robertson is, I mean, for all sense of purpose, he is a pillar of a community. I'll say,
so to speak.
Right. I mean, people do look up to him and trust this guy. So they will believe anything he says, and they'll do it uncritically. They won't think about, well, what is this guy saying? I don't want to go into seeing past what he's saying, because I mean, sometimes, because in this case, I am making the assumption this is just not another way of peddling his book so he can get more royalties or whatever, make more money off this book so his ministry can live on forever. So, he may actually believe it, or he may be just, I would love to be right there on the stage right after he says stuff like that, and him turning around going, do you think they believe this bullshit? I'm raking them fucking money in, man. Like this up. I mean, I would like to believe that's what really goes on behind when the camera goes off or the mic goes off. It's like, you think they bought it? You think they bought this shit? Check the sales on the book. I think it's going up. Or do we get extra donations this week? Let's find out.
Yeah. Did we get any more grandmothers on Social Security to send their checks?
Yeah.
It's sad, but then again, like I said, he's a senile old fool, and I don't know why anybody listens to him or any of the other televangelists, because they're all just as bad.
Right.
All right. Well, did you want to go ahead and do some main event?
Let's do some main event.
Hey, sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
This is the main event.
In our last show, we talked a little bit about capital punishment, and we thought it was something we probably should talk more about in some more detail. I'm sure we've talked about it on the show before, but with 61 shows under our belts, I didn't have time to go back and look. But I will try to put a link in the show notes if I can find one. But this is just a common liberal whine, and I think we need to address it. So here's our take on why the death penalty is a really fucking good thing.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it a fucking good thing, but I do agree with it, and I have particular reasons. But I'd like to hear yours first, because I think we might be in sync here a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, prison needs to fulfill 3 requirements in order to be justified. All right. Number 1, you have to punish the guilty. Number 2, you have to protect society. And number 3, you have to rehabilitate the guilty for an eventual return to society. If it doesn't do all 3 of those things, then prison is not the proper penalty. We have drug users who are not directly harmful to society, and they belong in treatment programs, not behind bars. And I was happy to hear in the last week that Obama is starting to say, well, maybe we should get all these people who are not a danger to people out of the prisons. We should absolutely do that. White collar criminals, they should be fined. They shouldn't be imprisoned. You know, we take the money from them. We punish them financially, not sticking them in a cell. Death row inmates and people in prison for life without the possibility of parole will never get out of prison. Therefore, they should not be in prison. They should be executed. The whole point of this is there are some crimes that are so heinous that these people have lost the right to breathe the same air as the rest of us. We don't need these people in our society. These people are dangerous to our society and to the people around them. Therefore, I got no problem, putting a bullet in their head or sticking a needle in their arm or whatever the hell it happens to be and getting them out of society, getting them out of those cells and use those cells for something useful instead of the millions of people we got sitting in a cell for no reason. I mean, just doing us no benefit whatsoever.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned society because I think one of my issues has always been that, when they talk about death penalty is that life for a life, there's that mentality. And, there's always this talk about, if the victim is opposed to the death penalty, the person should live, type of talk. But these crimes, I mean, and we're talking the serious capital crimes, and we're talking murder, I like to stick to the, premeditated now, because, these are crimes and most of the crimes too, theft, anything that it's considered a felony are acts that society has decided is not conducive to a viable society. I mean, just really, we can't have people willy-nilly walking around killing somebody or breaking into houses or doing, this is something we do not condone as a society. And that's why we deal with these people the way we do. We arrest them, we put them in prison, we do all this stuff. And because I always hear, because they always seem to talk about the victim, the perpetrator and the victim. Those are the only two that seems to be important. No, I believe that when you commit these crimes, you're not just committing a crime against another person, individual, you're a crime against society. That's why we have this system of incarceration, and so on. That's why in the case of murder, I have no issue with eye for an eye, one thing, plus the fact that as a society, we've made the decision that we would put them to death. I mean, this has anything to do with deterrence. I mean, I know a lot of, there's always those arguments about, the death penalty is a deterrent. No, it never has, never will be. I would agree with that. The problem is that our society, and that's a decision everybody makes. If we're, we do it through our votes, we do it through our, how we prosecute, how we go after these cases, who we decide to put to death. I do have issues with how we, the courts and then I would not want to send someone to death row that hasn't been properly represented. Because there is a chance. I hate the idea of, someone wrongly convicted and sent to electric chair, whatever, only to find out, well, he wasn't the one guilty. I would like to see the court or, I'd like to see some things change how we make the decision to put someone to death. And we can talk about that a little bit later, but just that this is my position. But we have decided that as a society, we do not condone these activities. We don't condone stealing, murder, kidnapping, all these felony crimes. So that's why we put them in prison, fine them, do whatever. And certainly we want the punishment to fit the crime. So, certainly a marijuana user who gets picked up with, he had just bought a kilo or whatever, $100 worth of pot. Should he go to jail for 10 years? No. I mean, that's just some kid or could be, just anybody who has a drug problem. Get him help. When you got again, when you talk about white collar crime, I have no problem putting him in jail for, put him in a county jail for, 3 months, but then fine him for the money he took. That's the only way to deter. I mean, if you're looking at it from a deterrent standpoint, if you get caught, you lose all that money you illegally made. That's a much better way of doing it than locking him up for, again, 10, 20 years where, he sits around and hopefully, I don't know how they deal with those, if they do the country club prisons or whatever, but, definitely the punishment should fit the crime. The idea of actually getting these people help if they're, if we're dealing with someone with a serious drug problem, let's get them into rehab. If they're a mental case, get them mental health. But if they're repeat offenders, they do the same thing over and over again, let's keep them locked up, put a needle in their arm.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
And if you go back and you look at all the arguments against the death penalty that get thrown around, the one thing that you'll recognize is that every goddamn one of them is an emotional argument. There's nothing factual to any of these arguments. And like you were saying before, that the death penalty isn't a deterrent. Well, no, it's not supposed to be. Guess what, guys? Prison isn't a deterrent either. The vast majority of people who go to prison and get released go right back into prison. But I don't hear these people arguing that we should get rid of prisons because they don't deter people from committing crimes. So the whole idea behind the death penalty being a deterrent is just bullshit. It is a penalty. It's a punishment for actually committing a crime. That it doesn't stop you from committing a crime in the first place, that has nothing to do with it at all.
Right.
And then you get, people go, oh, we might make a mistake. Well, guess what, guys? We're human. Humans will always make mistakes. That's part of being a human. And if you expect perfection in our criminal justice system, you're being irrational. The fact is, we put people in prison mistakenly all the time. And if you spend 20 years in prison for a crime you didn't commit, I don't care how much money they throw at you, you can't get back those 20 years that you wasted in prison. You lose those forever, and there is no way to compensate you. I don't care if they pay you $1 billion a year. Again, I don't see anybody arguing to get rid of prisons because we might make a mistake. Emotional argument, total bullshit. All right? We are humans. We understand that we're humans. We understand that we make mistakes, and we need to learn from our mistakes so that we do not make them in the future. But everybody expects us to be goddamn perfect right now. Let's be realistic here, okay? We didn't stop sending people up in the shuttle because we might make a mistake and people might die. Guess what? People died. But we put them there. We kept sending them up in the shuttle because what we gained from the shuttle program was more important than the individual lives of the people who were lost. I don't want to put anybody to death wrongly. Absolutely not. But if we do, if we're ever mistaken, then we are. Oops. We compensate the family and we move on and we learn from it, because it's better for society to kill one innocent person than to let anybody go and have them murder somebody or rape somebody or blow things up or fly into buildings or whatever the hell else is going on. I'm not really interested in the, oh, holy shit, we can't actually ever do anything wrong. That's a bullshit argument, and clearly you're absolutely fine with us doing wrong things in every other aspect of life. Just that one you don't like, it's an emotional argument and it's bullshit.
Yeah. When I do my conspiracy show, I see people making mistakes all the time, wrong decisions at the wrong time, and then shit happens. That's what it's mean to be human. To err is human, forgive divine. And expecting perfection all the time. I really do feel bad for those who do get wrongly incarcerated. And actually there's cases where, certainly there's abuses, and then the abuses have to be dealt with, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I've heard these horror stories about police, not even just a department. We're talking a number of departments who have, it's actually a standard operating procedure for them to arrest somebody. And if they sort of match, like a vandal going around spraying graffiti, some kid gets caught spraying graffiti on a wall somewhere, he'll get arrested and then busted for others that he may never, there's no proof that he ever had any involvement with. And they put enough charges on him that they'll plead him into a 6 months jail, or even maybe even a 1 month in jail for it. Once that happens, that kid is ruined because he's got an arrest record, he's got a felony record.
Well, he shouldn't have been doing graffiti to begin with.
Well, right, but if it's it's the one time, the thing is that they say they're going to pin him on everything, and they're going to actually charge the kid. He may be only really guilty for one, And maybe the only one time that he ever decides to pick up a spray can and spray a wall. Just what I'm hearing from what's going on in these police departments. You bust them for one thing, even though you have no proof, you'll pin him a whole bunch of a string of other crimes to it. Whether he did it or not, we don't know, but you're going to say we're going to charge him with all these, which of course it goes from misdemeanor to felony because it was multiple times. So they could put him into prison. Well, he pleads and gets the minimum time, which is fine. But like I said, the kid, now he's got an arrest record. He's got a felony on his record, so he can't get a decent job. It'll keep him out of everything. But I think the Army will take one-time felon, not multiple, but one time. He'll be locked out of jobs. And the nice thing for the police, they clear 6 or 7, sometimes even 10 cases off their books and say they solved all these crimes. The police look good. The prosecutor looks good. The kid's fucked for life. And then where does he got to turn? Well, he can't get a job or a decent job. He may take to more serious crime because, now he's indoctrinated to the prison system. That's what I'm hearing coming out of, and this is in Illinois. So, and this is how they do it. It's a kind of a bullshit setup. We're creating felons when there are no felons. These kids or people, anybody is doing, they'll do hard time. Their life is fucked up because, again, a prosecutor, a policeman wants to get their kudos and...
Well, I mean, we're not really even talking about that. We're talking about people who actually commit crime.
Right.
And yeah, when there are abuses, you absolutely have to deal with abuses. And I think that police need to be held to a higher standard such that if they are ever caught doing any of that bullshit, not only is their career over, but they're going to go sit their ass in prison for a number of years. They go away for a much longer time than anybody else based on the power that they've been given.
Right.
But again, that's not even what we're talking about. To be perfectly honest, I think we need to use the death penalty a lot more than we use it now, not less. I think that anybody who goes to prison for life without the possibility of parole should be killed. Get rid of them. If they're never going to get out, fuck them. They don't need to be taken up that cell. They don't need to be fed. They don't need to be taken care of, any of that stuff. And I don't think we should seek revenge on these people. This isn't about revenge. This is about justice. All right. I know that there are people out there who want, if you murder somebody, you stab them in the face 20 times with a knife, then they should be stabbed in the face 20 times to kill them. I think that's kind of childish and silly. I don't think we should make them suffer. In fact, I think we ought to use compounds that allow us to harvest their organs. Use a heavy-duty tranquilizer and then put a bullet in the head. Their body becomes the property of the state. We cut them up. We actually make something useful out of them that we didn't have before. What the fuck? Might as well do something instead of right now we're just shooting them full of chemicals that doesn't, that makes their entire body useless.
Right. Yeah. Personally, I wouldn't want it to be the reason why we put people to death is to harvest organs. I mean, that's a little creepy to me. I don't know.
Well, no, it's not because of it, but we certainly, as long as we're going to do it anyway, we might as well get something out of it.
True. I mean, that would be a good thing, but yeah, certainly. I mean, I just, when we do execute the sentence, that we're doing it to the right people. And I mean, that's my only concern really with the death penalties. We're doing it to the right people. And because the court is based on reasonable doubt, it's not hard fact. I mean, you have to be reasonable in that the person committed this crime. And, I'm going back to that because that's what I want to be careful about is that we're putting the right people in the right places where they should be based on what they did. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah. And to the best of our ability, we should.
Right.
I get really sick and tired of these idiots going, oh, well, it's so much more expensive to put these people to death. Well, the only reason it's expensive is because we let these people have as many goddamn appeals as they want. Once you've been convicted by a jury of your peers, once you've had your single mandatory appeal, as far as I'm concerned, anything beyond those two, in order to file appeal, you need to bring new evidence to the table that you are factually not guilty of this crime. You need to prove that you are innocent. None of this, well, I just have these doubts. And let's be honest, most of these appeals are, I don't want to die. Well, fuck you. If you didn't want to die, you shouldn't have done it.
And again, that's the thing. I have no problem with maybe 1 or 2 appeals, but you know what? If you're going to keep, appeal to the governor, appeal to, whatever. No, you get 2 appeals, you get the one, you get,
I'll go with 2 appeals, a conviction and 2 appeals. I'll give you that. That's fine with me. But if you get convicted 3 goddamn times by 3 different juries, I've lost my sympathy for you.
If you can't do it in 3 times, there's not much more you can prove. I mean, cause there's those programs, where with the DNA, they'll pay for the DNA tests that's needed that wasn't done at the time. And I guess, people have been exonerated. I'm cool with that. If make that a mandatory thing that, no matter what, before you go to the chair, you get that one DNA test. Let them have that.
Well, that should have been done at the trial to begin with.
Well, if you got a guy that's been on there 30, 40 years before DNA tests were done or was available, I would do stuff like that. But even as a last check, like one double, that double check you need,
Well, I'm sure anybody who's on death row right now has had any DNA test done if there is a DNA test to be done. Right. I'm sure they're not sitting around going, well, holy shit, they're strapping me in the chair. I should have a DNA test. It's been done. And they haven't been exonerated. I hate to say it, but technology moves forward. These people who've been sitting in prison for 30, 40 years, waiting to be executed, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. We can't just sit around and go, well, we got to keep them all alive because, holy shit, in 15 years, there might be a new test we can use. No, that's not the way it works. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, again, to get the right people, and it may be just that liberals feel guilty, and I don't want to pull the race card here, but, it is, a lot of times it's blacks who have been wrongly convicted, there's the, executing the mentally ill, people just, it bothers people when you do that.
I don't care if we execute the mentally ill. That's the thing. The problem is, all right, crazy guy X, and Brandy will yell at me for this. I know. But crazy guy X goes out and beats some guy over the head with an axe and kills him. The fact that this guy is crazy does not change the fact that this guy is dead. All right? This guy is dead, and it doesn't really make a damn bit of difference the mental state or ability of the person who did it to him. This crazy guy has proven himself to be a danger to society. I don't give a crap if he's crazy. Let's get him out of the gene pool. Let's get him out of the society so we don't have to keep him locked up in a cage for the rest of his life. Yeah. I don't care if he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's committed a crime.
Yeah. It's just, I think from the liberal standpoint, because of the mental illness, he may not be capable of understanding right and wrong and what he did,
Okay, great. Get rid of him.
And I'm just making that, that's their position. I think
Fuck their position.
I think ultimately, though, that the punishment fitting the crime, because I see the death penalty as not only just a punishment to give closure to the family. No, I think it's closure to society. We do not condone these activities. I have as much a right to have an opinion that our opinions are as valid as the liberals, since this is what we believe, that these people have committed crimes against what we believe in. These people committed crimes against what they believe in. They just have this emotional attachment to the fact of killing another human. I don't fault them for that. I don't disagree with it. It's just that I think the reality is that when someone commits a crime against someone else, it's also a crime against society. They never make that connection that this is something that society has frowned on. We don't want an anarchy where people can go around shooting each other or stabbing or whatever, burning everyone's houses down, that type of thing.
But that's the problem, is that they don't give a damn about society. They only care about individuals. And if you just listen to them, you will see that. That's the whole basis of fucking multiculturalism. Yeah. Well, holy shit.
Yeah.
Make everybody feel good. Well, no, that's not the way it works. We're a social species. The society matters a hell of a lot more than any individual person.
And that's why I never hear the argument from them that, it's a crime against society. I don't think they believe in society anymore. They think, they do seem to want to, they want to look at the individual, and it's half the equation. The other half is society. And like I said, we've set these rules as a group, as humans, even all over the world. If you go from country to country, whatever, they're going to say this, you ask them, what do you feel about murder? Murder wrong, whatever.
Not necessarily. Well, you have to remember that morality is all subjective anyway. Right. You know, if you went back and you were like hanging out with the Aztecs, they'd be going, well, yeah, it's perfectly fine to go ripping somebody's heart out of their chest. There's nothing wrong with that.
But you know what? I bet you ask that Aztec, is it okay to rip out another Aztec's heart? They'd say, oh, no, that's not good.
Actually, it was because they'd had people lining up to have it done to them because they believed that their death would benefit their families and that kind of stuff.
Right. If you talk to somebody that says, you know, when it's their own group, murder not good. If it's outside their group, murder okay. You know, I mean, and that's what I'm trying to get at, because I mean, the Aztecs, the Mayas, they went out capturing people to put under the knife. You know, I mean, that's
not always, but yeah.
quite
generally, but not always.
Yeah. You know, so again, you could ask within our group, our society, and you could talk around the world. My people, no, you don't kill our own people. Kill the guy across the river? Yeah, because they're not part of our gang, you know, type of thing.
Yeah, but if you go look at the Middle East and Islam, that's not necessarily the case. They have no problem performing honor killings against people in their own group who just go outside their little religious rules.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the religious trappings thrown on it. I'm just talking like in general. I mean, I would think if you were to poll everyone within a particular group, I would almost bet, I don't know if any studies have ever been done like this, but I feel that they will say that, you know, within my group, murder's bad. If it was somebody else outside the group, murder's okay.
Yeah, but
I think that's.
I can think of examples where you're just wrong. You know, ghetto gang culture where it's completely fucking fine to go doing a drive-by shooting and just shoot people at random because they're in a different gang.
Well, that's a different gang, so they're okay to kill. You can't kill your own within your gang.
Well, yeah, but if you cut it down to that degree where you're only talking about people who walk in lockstep, well, yeah, of course they're all going to think the same because you've all automatically excluded anybody who disagrees with them.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. And I would bet you if you talk to a gangbanger, it's not okay to kill your own. You got to kill the other gang. You know, if you talk to whites, in the South, they may say it's okay to kill blacks. You know, that's what we do, you know, within that context. And that's what I'm trying to drive at. You know, depending on the group, you don't mess with your own group. You mess with the other group. I mean, that's why we have wars. You know, honor killings. It's the men against women. Women are inferior, so they're okay to kill. I think that's the valid argument. You know,
yeah, but you don't get societies that are just put together by people who walk in lockstep. Because if you did, then nobody in our society would ever commit murder because murder would automatically be seen as reprehensible and nobody would ever do it. Clearly, that's not the case.
That's how we say that murder is reprehensible, and when someone within our group does it, then we punish them.
Yeah, but clearly there's a lot of people out there who don't think murder is wrong because they go out and do it. And they don't think robbery is wrong because they go out and do it. And they don't think rape is wrong because they go out and do it.
Right.
We are the majority, and therefore we have the ability to impose our directives on them against their will. But obviously not everybody in the society has the same feelings.
True. But again, that's what society is saying, that we do not condone this activity. That's why we put you in jail. If you want to commit crimes, fine. You know, it's like, but you're going to have to pay the penalty. You're going to go to jail. You're going to get shot at. You know, whatever. If you get caught, you're going to go to jail. You're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. That's what society in general says. But they know that the society they live in is abhor to what they have done and, or what they want to do or what they're going to do. You know, that's why we have, you know, why we can justify killing other people in war, because they're not part of our group. They're the enemy. They're subhuman, whatever. That's how we justify things. You know, that's
not a good justification, by the way.
But personally, I think that is why we justify able to kill other people outside our group is, you know, in a war, is because we treat them as subhuman. That's what we did in World War II. We turned the Germans, we turned the Italians, we turned the Japanese into characters, these evil subhuman characters, and that's why what helped.
Oh, sure, but that doesn't mean it's a rational thing to do. Just because it gets done, that doesn't mean it's a good idea or it's a proper idea or it's a good justification. It's just a way that we've found to make ourselves feel better about shooting other people because they're a little bit different than us.
Right.
You know, and the last thing I really wanted to go over with this is I hear the argument that killing criminals or killing murderers makes us just as bad as they are. And, you know, guys, this isn't a dick-waving contest. This is about justice. This is about punishing people for things that they have done. You know, we don't go out and just pick a random person off the street and blow their heads off. That would make us as bad as the murderers. We don't do that. What we do is take out the trash. And we need to take out that trash because otherwise society ceases to function. If we don't put the robbers in jail, if we don't put the murderers in jail, if we don't punish the guilty that are doing things that are to the detriment of society, society ceases to function. And so I get really sick and tired of this whole, oh, well, you're no better than they are. Absolutely, I'm better than they are. I am stopping them from doing it again because they've already demonstrated their willingness to do it in the first place. And to be perfectly honest, I get really sick and tired, and this is a different thing anyway, but I was in a discussion earlier on today with somebody who says, well, we have to have like 8-10 people to sit around and push buttons so that nobody knows who actually killed this person. Why the fuck is that the case? All right? Why do we have to have like 6 people pushing a button and only one of the buttons is hooked up to the poison? You know, don't we have people in the military who go out there? We don't put people in the military and say, well, half your bullets are blanks, so you don't know if you actually shot anybody or not. No, they're trained to kill people. That's their job. Why don't we just get fucking soldiers to come in and pull the trigger? We got 1.5 million of them on the public dole already. Might as well make some use of them. You know, this whole thing gets ridiculous. Hell, pay me, I'll go push the button every time. I want to know I'm putting these fuckers down.
Yeah, I don't understand that argument about who does it, whatever. That's...
I volunteer. I'll do it.
Yeah, because, I won't go down this road. You know, this is what we have, you know, we're set up to do. This is how we deal with our criminals. I don't see why there has to be an issue about executing the death sentence, or whatever they call it, I think it's executing the death order or whatever they do it. It shouldn't be a big deal. Quite frankly, I think they should be open to everybody to see. I mean, they should have cameras in there. If you want to watch it, fine. If you don't, turn another channel.
Put it on pay-per-view.
If it's a big name, yeah, I'd do pay-per-view. If you're doing like
the execution channel type, I'd subscribe.
Yeah. You know, it's almost like we tried to sanitize. I mean, that's what it really sounds like, where we've tried to sanitize this, particular sentence, capital, execution, where only certain people could see it. You know, there's only certain witnesses to the execution. I would love to see it open to everybody. I would even have a lottery to see who can pull the lever or push the button or whatever.
Hey, I'm fine if the family of the victim gets to do it. I'm sure they'd love it.
I'd give them for a shot. You know, if you want to push the button, go for it. If not, anyone else, we seem to mix the victim and closure for the victim for the closure for society. I mean, they seem to forget that this is a crime against society, not only against a particular victim. And, society should have a shot at pulling the lever. And I really have no issue with, how we go about this. I mean, firing squad's fine. Bring back the electric chair.
Well, the problem I have with the electric chair and, the chemicals that they're using is it ruins the body.
Right.
It would be cool to use a firing squad, but firing squads are trained to fire at center of mass, which of course shreds all the organs. So the guillotine would work because you don't actually have to worry about it and we're not going to save the brain.
Right.
I think that's effective. Shoot this guy up with all kinds of tranquilizers, things that are not going to harm the body, things that you would use in an operation that obviously is not going to hurt anybody. It's just going to knock them out so they don't feel anything and then chop their goddamn heads off. There you go. Solved your problem. Now let's just take the body off and divvy up all the parts. You can even save the eyes that way.
Yeah.
What a good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. But
yeah. I'm just getting really sick and tired of catering to the emotionally squeamish. You know, the people who are just, I'm too unhappy. Well, fuck you. Grow up. Become intellectual and stop reacting to everything emotionally.
Yeah. It's like, I want to say, that the death penalty in this country has become like, I like the analogy of in RoboCop 2 where RoboCop gets, his new directives and they pile all these different directives in his brain and he can't function because he's got to do this or that because of how how his computer, the computer works. He has to be this, that. And, that's what we've done with the death penalty. We have put so many rules and stipulations and the criminal has to be, he can't feel pain or he can't feel this or he can't do, whatever, where it's almost impossible now to execute a prisoner because you got to follow all these steps. And if you don't follow them, you got to start all over. And then you got the outsiders who say, well, we don't, it's cruel. It's unusual.
Nothing cruel about it. You want cruel? Try whatever these fuckers did to their victims. I'm sure their victims didn't feel no pain.
Right.
Well, I mean, there was a case in the last couple of days where somebody was executed and something went wrong and the guy was in pain for a couple of minutes before he had a heart attack and died. Okay. Yeah, that's not the ideal, but it still fulfills the sentence. I don't feel sorry for this fucker at all. I'm sorry.
To be honest, I would say the biggest execution that I can remember in Illinois was John Wayne Gacy, after killing, really they don't know how many, to be honest. I think they convicted him on, if I remember, like 20 of these murders.
Which is 19 too many for him to get executed.
Yeah. I mean, it was 19. They did find like 30 some bodies at the house. He may have dumped bodies all over northern Illinois. The book I read on it, what's that book? It was written by the prosecutor. It's really neat. It's actually, I think, a real good insight on, paints a good reason for a death penalty in that case. I mean, and Gacy he sodomized, he tied up, sodomized, and then murdered his victims. And there were protesters out protesting a death penalty. I bet you they weren't there to protest Gacy's death. They were protesting the death penalty. It didn't matter that this motherfucker, what he did to these boys.
Yeah, he's just an overachiever Catholic priest.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say he wasn't too good at hiding the bodies, I guess. But, I mean, and actually that was the moment, because I read up on how they, this book had told how they caught him, what they had to go through to prosecute him, and ultimately putting him to death. They just got him convicted. The book doesn't go into putting him down, but, if you understood what this guy did to these kids, and you still want to post the death penalty, I think you need to reassess a few things, because there are just some people who should not be allowed, because in Gacy's case, if he would have been put into a mental institution, because that was the other option. They could have found him, guilty by reason of insanity, which would have put him into a mental institution. They did that. He had been busted like that before. He didn't kill anybody, but he had tied up and sodomized some kids in Des Moines, Iowa. He ended up getting convicted, sent to a mental institution. 6 months later, they declared him cured and they let him loose.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time.
Right. He ends up in, Des Plaines, Illinois, and, keeps up the game he was playing. And,
yeah, well that's why I don't agree with not guilty by reason of insanity for anything. I don't give a shit what your reason for it is. I give a shit about what you did.
Right.
But people will hate me for that, so.
Yeah. Every time when I hear the arguments, it's like, well, wait a minute. You're saying these people can't be cured. So you want to set them out on the street? Just have them register as a sex offender? That makes no sense to me,
Yeah.
Because apparently, I mean, if I'm understanding the science of sexual addiction, this, they have the urges that makes them do what they do. They'll have them for life. They'll never get rid of them.
Yep. Kill them.
Pills won't solve anything. I mean, I think this is a really good example where put him in jail, put a needle in his arm, put him out.
Yep. Save society.
Right. Because this guy, if Gacy got out on a parole or served out a 20 or 40 year sentence, he'd be back trying to do the same thing he did before, and maybe even worse, so that's the problem I have with when they start arguing, well, it's the liberal argument, well, it's wrong to kill, it's cruel and unusual, it's all, this stuff. Fuck you,
Yeah, it's not.
This is a perfect case of where Gacy got off light.
Yeah, up until the end, and then he got what he had coming.
Right.
Unfortunately,
he still got off
people.
life.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, people, there are some people you just can't save. Stop trying to save them all. People do not deserve to live just because they happen to pop out of the womb. That's not the way shit works. There are people who earn their penalty and deserve it, and I got no sympathy for them at all. Now, I know we're going to get attacked for saying all this stuff, but let's be honest. Every damn attack that we get is going to be completely emotional. Bets?
Oh, exactly. I mean, I would feel a lot more comfortable, though, is that we did do everything possible to convict the right people for the right reason.
Absolutely.
And I think that's gotta be the important thing. If you're gonna attack us because we're pro-death penalty, I don't believe in just arresting somebody, get them convicted for a capital crime, and stick a needle in them. That's not what I'm for. I want to make sure that we're putting the right people in the jail, get them punished the right way, and if it is a capital crime, we put them down.
Yep.
That's the simplest thing. And I would have no issue with going extra mile to allow extra appeals, extra testing. I would even batting this around, as an idea. I would have no problem where if that person in a capital case, I would have any problem taking them out of the prosecutor that is going to prosecute it. I actually have a separate court, a capital crimes court, where somehow the lawyers, the prosecutor, the defense, the judges, I don't know if it's through appointments or through, whatever, some system where they could be as impartial as possible, take the evidence, this court has its own police, investigators, their own labs, their own whatever, and they take over the case so you get rid of the prosecutor who might be trying to make a name because he's being reelected. So he might falsely accuse somebody of murder because it makes it look good at an election time. I would try to get the prosecutor. I would take the judges because they're elected. The defense attorney can stick. I could see that being, he can work with a defense attorney within the new court. But have their own police force who would do an investigation, look at how the police handled, and of course handle any, and investigate what's already been investigated, have labs that are certified by the court, so they'll be the only ones that can do, they'll rerun samples and so on, so that we take try to get the politics out and get it into where try to eliminate all that. Now then go through, if the guy ends up still being guilty, because nothing should change if he's guilty. All the evidence will point to it. You'll still bring in your witnesses. You'll still have, you can bring in your professionals to argue the validity of tests and so on. You can do all that kind of stuff, but you've eliminated as much of the politics behind a capital crime as you can. And I think that might be a very good step forward. And then we know that, every step has been taken to assure that the guy has gotten as fair a trial as we can possibly give him, especially in a capital case.
Yeah, well, we should do that with all trials. There should be no politics in any trial, but we know that's not going to happen, and that's a completely different discussion.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, even if we did that, no matter how far we went, even if the guy admitted freely that he committed the crime, you'd still have a bunch of these liberal fucks sitting around going, we can't execute him anyway. So, you can't win.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I'm not into arrest him today, try him tomorrow, and get the needle in the third day. No, I'm not like that. I don't believe that. And that's really...
Nobody's arguing for that, though, so...
Right. But I want to make sure that our listeners, before they...
But, if you're arguing, arrest him today, try him tomorrow, and then let him sit around for 35 years on death row, no, we shouldn't do that either.
No. But we want fair trials. We want the best. But
we want that for every trial, death penalty or not. And that should be the standard for every trial we ever have.
Exactly.
If it's not, we're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that's it. I mean, I'm just wanting to stress, I want to stress for our listeners that's what I'm trying to do is, I mean, I want to make sure that you understand we want a fair system as possible. We want these criminals to get the right defense. I mean, O.J. Simpson, he had these $1 million lawyers. Was he guilty or not? No one will know. No one will ever know. I mean, apparently he was, but he had the best lawyers to get him off. I would like to see, it shouldn't cost anything to defend yourself. I mean, you shouldn't have to have $1 million lawyers to get you off. But anyhow,
yeah,
again,
we're going on way too long here.
Yeah, but I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to state that we want the fairest trials, we want the fairest punishments. We're not ghouls, we're not monsters. We're just
we just give a damn about justice, which seems to not exist in this society anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so death penalty, 2 thumbs up. All right, well, we should go ahead and close up for the week.
Yeah.
Well, that was a show, wasn't it? If you agree with us, great. If you disagree with us, let us know. You can reach us through our website, through email, through Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. You can listen to the show via Stitcher Radio and iTunes. If you'd like to be on the show to talk about virtually anything under the sun, let us know. We love to debate. We'll be back in another week, so stay right where you are. Don't move. And yes, we're watching you. So until next week, take care.
Good night.
You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephas and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Bitchspot Report. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are at our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.